providing inadequate, inaccurate, and incomplete whereabouts information, and even if he was given another warning for his whereabouts merry-go-round, that would not amount to a sanction. So the UCI decided to investigate the situation with the purpose of filing a case against him for other rule violations. If UCI had respected the rules, the investigation referred to could hardly have been carried out, because the location forms would have been destroyed by the 1st of July, when the location form for July, August, September became current. Another stunning thing is that Rasmussen is required to inform against himself because of Article 158 or 85, which effectively is an obligation to self-incrimination. He was not obliged to any ban reduction. So when he had a press conference prior to the publication of the Vogelsang report, admitted that he had provided inaccurate whereabouts information, he was, on July the 1st, 2008, banned for 2 years on the grounds that he had, that his whereabouts violation were also a violation of Article 15.3, evading sample collection, and 15.5, tampering with doping control. He should never have admitted that he had not been in Mexico, which he did because he wanted to set his record straight. Had he been able to foresee the consequences of this, he probably would not have admitted that he had provided inaccurate information. Unfortunately for him, he was stupid enough to think that violations of the whereabouts rules would only be punished in accordance with the whereabouts regulations, which said that violations would result in a ban of between 3 to 12 months. And he thought that by admitting he had provided inaccurate information and made it easy for the UCI, they would perhaps only give him 6 months suspension. This was overly optimistic. However, if we give him a little bit of credit, it is easy to see that he violated the requirements regarding riders' availability for out-of-competition testing, including a failure to provide required whereabouts information and missed testing. He didn't anticipate, however, giving the wording of 15.4 that charges could be brought against him for whereabouts violation under 15.3 and 15.5. That consequence was not explicit in the 2004 regulations, but became explicit in the 2009 regulations, so that it is now clear that what Rasmussen did in 2007 was more than a whereabouts violation. Now, the Vogelsang report presented the case in a way which shows us that it was not easy for them either to see that this ban was actually in accordance with the rules. Also, they found out that the UCI itself, particularly in the beginning, gave the impression that it did not take the whereabouts information seriously. Both the team management of Rabobank and the riders were under the impression that the UCI considered the obligation imposed by WADA to be an administrative burden. In addition, the committee has observed that riders, partly as a result of the relaxed attitude taken by the UCI, were insufficiently aware of the necessity to provide very specific whereabouts information. The committee has furthermore noted that the UCI takes a flexible attitude toward late submissions of whereabouts information, and does not impose a deadline which result in a certain carelessness among riders. Written warnings are evaluated by a single individual, and there appears to be no assessment framework on the basis of which written warnings and the rider's defences is, if applicable, can be evaluated. This is the case both at the UCI and at the anti-doping organisations interviewed by the committee. Statements made by riders have revealed that in certain instances making a phone call to the UCI is sufficient to have a written warning cancelled, while at other times it is not, despite the fact that the argument presented are the same. Two different riders both argue that they are not at the location specified because they travelled to a different, verifiable location a day early. In the case of Rasmussen, this defence, according to the declarations, was not accepted, while in the case of the other riders, it was. And the Vogelsang's general conclusion was the UCI is insufficiently precise, insufficiently unambiguous, insufficiently coordinated, insufficiently effective, and overly random with respect to its formulation and application of its own anti-doping regulation and sanctions measures. That did not help Rasmussen. The ambivalence in the wording and the unclear wording of the rules had made him interpret them wrong, and that became, at the end of the day, his problem. Now, in the interview on March 2010, sports director Johnny Wells from Team Garmin stated this rather astonishing, gave this rather astonishing statement. Michael Rasmussen was removed for a case that was not a case, it was not fair, and they acted in panic. Until that year, it was quite common to cheat with the whereabouts. For many, it had no consequences. Michael's offence became so damaging for him because it was exposed in front of the entire world. Now, it is understandable, given the strict liability principle, that the obligation to self-incrimination contained in the UCI regulation, Article 185, that he did not deserve a reduction for his admission. The surprising thing was that he did not get any reduction for providing evidence that the Rabobank team management knew all along where he trained. If Rasmussen had committed an anti-doping rule violation under Article 15.3 and 15.5, then Rabobank had committed a rule violation according to the UCI's anti-doping regulations, Article 15.8. As soon as the verdict was spoken in the civil court in the Rasmussen Rabobank case, the UCI should have brought charges against Rabobank for covering up. In light of the strict liability principle in sport, it is hard to see how Rabobank could be let off the hook if the UCI had taken the opportunity to start disciplinary proceedings. UCI could have used Rasmussen as crown witness. His evidence in the case is overwhelming, but the UCI chose not to.